Welcome to the Art of Love podcast. My name is Tamar, Gail, and I am here to guide you into deeper, more expansive love, freedom, and pleasure. A deep inner journey of self-discovery. Here, I will cover all types of topics pertaining to love, including self-love and self-care, relationships, Tantra, intimacy, sex, all the way to Christ Consciousness and Pachamama, just to name a few broad topics. My mission is to support you in being true to yourself, reconnecting the fragmented pieces and aspects of yourself so that you can find and use your own inner fire, Shakti power, and voice. It is time to break down the old systems that we have been taught to live by. I would love to see you align with your personal truth and nature instead of succumbing to others' views of how you should be, trying to fit inside of the box in order to be accepted, and instead standing in your power and loving all that you are, accessing a new way of being in the world. Hi, welcome to the Art of Love, and today I'm going to be talking about the sacred wound and removing the false masks that hide our true selves. So everything that I talk about today is from my own perspective and experience, so I just encourage you to always feel into your body with what really rings true for you. So we hear a lot about the ego and a lot of talk about that and how we need to overcome it and separate from it in order to transcend. But today I want to just kind of introduce the idea of what if the ego is our form of protection against others and against the world due to our boundaries and primal needs not being met, and from the loss and trauma and violation that we all experience at some point in our lives. So when these things happen, we put on a false mask, we don a false mask in order to protect ourselves from future pain. And I think here it's really important for us to really come to the understanding that there's nothing wrong with us, that we are born by human nature, pure, innocent, and beautiful. But the world that we are born into isn't designed to support the fullness of who we truly are. And so as early as when we were in the mother's womb at conception, we began to understand this, and we began to shut down and build these walls of protection around ourselves. And that can be known as our ego. There's something really important that I found. Azra and Serene Bertrand, I hope I'm saying their name correctly, they said something that really resonated with me, and it was, as we were born into a false grid where we felt alienated from our true self, so we unwittingly abandon our own center, our soul Shakti, which connects us to Source. We feel this loss, this disconnection, and it is the root of all of our feelings of fear, anguish, despair, betrayal, separation, abandonment, unworthiness, and primal non-safety. We long to come back to our primal power, our center, and our love. So this really resonated with me because it was in the moment of reconnecting to my own soul Shakti that I finally, for the first time, felt Spirit's immense love, and at the same time, the pure love and compassion for myself, which then reverberated out into the world as compassion and love for everything. So I guess that kind of led to my own journey in Christ Consciousness. And this eventually led me to, let me step back, because I started my own inward journey of self-discovery probably in 2010. And this journey led me to discovering all the ways that I had protected, and not only protected, but even abandoned myself. And this realization led me to the discovery of the concept of the sacred wound and how this wound had played a huge fundamental part in almost every decision of my life. So being adopted, I was adopted 11 days after I was born. My wounding was abandonment from birth. And because I was also born premature, and as we all know, situations like this where babies are premature or there's trauma at birth, the babies are taken into what we call the NICU. And maybe that was called something else at the time that I was born. But this left me fighting for my life, which was the wounding of scarcity and fight or flight. So that, along with the feelings of abandonment, even though that I had been adopted by an amazing family, these wounds still unconsciously stayed with me until I saw them for what they were. And until then, they created a lot of havoc and heartache in my life as my soul kept trying to remind me of who I was at my core, which is who we all are at our core. It's love. And so I work a lot with the false masks in the sacred womb because of this reason, is that I had, of course, to go on my own journey of my own inward journey of healing, and removing the mask and coming back to my soul center, my soul Shakti. So I'd love to give you a little bit of an explanation on what the sacred wound actually is. It usually happens between the time of conception and the age of 7, or the birth and age of 7, some people say. And between these ages, we typically will have a trauma in our life that sets the stage for us building these walls of protection and donning this false mask. And this trauma could be anything from our mother leaving us to cry ourselves to sleep, to something like being left, abandoned, and abused. So there are many different scenarios that could play out and causing this, what's called the sacred wound, and this trauma in childhood. And at such a young age, we don't really have the ability to process what is happening to us through an adult mind. And the incident gets stored in our unconscious memories, creating these almost like traumas over and over again in our life, because these masks were innocently put on in face of the trauma and hurt in order to protect ourselves and to ensure our own survival. So which creates, this false mask, and it creates the ego of protective barriers that I was talking about earlier. And we forget that we even put them on. We believe that the mask that we are wearing is actually our true self. And at the same time, we lose our sense of trust and feeling of safety on earth, of being here on earth. We create patterns in our lives after this of similar stories as our unconscious tries to bring us back to our true self. And it's doing this because it's asking us to remember our light, and it's asking us to remember who we are underneath the mask. Because underneath it all, we truly desire to come back to our center, which is our primal power and our love. And our sacred wound is usually our medicine, our lesson in life, that once we realize what it is and we heal it, it becomes our gift to the world. So you see, there is no defect in us. There's only these places in us where we need to love a little bit deeper, and we need to grieve and heal where we've been hurt and where we have not had the space to explore the world and thrive in the world through our innocence, our childhood innocence and wonder and that tenderness. So what does it take in order to go deeper into this sacred wound, this concept of sacred wound, and on this journey of coming back to our true core essence? It's an inward journey of self-discovery that really takes a journey through these places and faces and protective layers, really feeling into them through love and acceptance as an adult. So in the mind of an adult, through our maturity as an adult, going back and journeying through these places and seeing these protective layers for what they are and thanking them for their protection of our inner wounded child, and then really allowing them to just to dissolve back into innocence through this space of love. And for me, this is such a deep form of self-love that allows us to truly embody unconditional love itself. It is the doorway to loving sacred union with another and the doorway to our creativity and to our light. So as I finish this, it is 11:11. So how beautiful. So I just encourage you to kind of sit with this, what I'm sharing with you today, and turn a little inward and see if you can find any of these places where you have put on your mask. And thank you everyone for joining us for Art of Love. And I look forward to connecting with you again next Wednesday. May we go out into the rest of this week embodying more love, love for ourselves, love for others, and love for Pachamama, Mother Earth. So love to each and every one of you, and see you next week.